We're at E.O. Wilson Nature Adventure Park right here in downtown Brewton. One of the features that we've created in this park is the bog that you see behind me, and in this bog are some very special plants. Pitcher plants are something that are found in our county, but they're not found all over the place in this state or in other states. A lot of people come to Brewton, Alabama just to find these bogs like we have in this park. The plants that you see around me came from a lot of different locations. Some of it came from private property where owners donated these plants and allowed the city to collect them. The city also has some restricted property where these plants can be found. Not lawful for these plants to be harvested off of that property because it is restricted. But what we're trying to do is create a habitat for that might be lost in our county and our city area, where we can grow these plants, people can come and see them without having to trespass over restricted property. But sometimes it's best to get the experts into town to find out what you really and truly have. So the plants that you see around me, I mean, there's about 3 or 4 different types right here, and we're looking to gain more. Since we don't know everything there is about these, we brought in experts to tell us what we actually have here in Brewton. Okay, now tell me more about your business part of it. I mean, we've been trying to put this together for about a year now, and I think you probably hit the best day of the year.
Yeah.
So tell me about what it is that you do.
So at NASC, the North American Sarracenia Conservancy, we're heavily involved in preserving and protecting plants, the Sarracenia and companion species all around wherever we can. So most of our members, board members, are based around North Carolina, where there's a lot of need for protection, but really wherever these plants are, there's a need for protection. And so in any way or shape or form that we can, recently we acquired quite a few acres in Boiling Spring Lakes, North Carolina, which is home of Venus flytraps, and also flava and venosa as well. And so we're trying to protect the land, recover it. We do a number of big charity auctions through the year and raise money so that we can fund these and pay for these properties and pay to help landowners who need protection. And then I also run the growers program, where landowners oftentimes will give us seeds from their area, and we'll distribute it to the network that we have, where we will propagate a large percentage and distribute. If we need to store them, we can plant them back when conditions are more favorable, or we can get the genetics backed up around the world in collections all around.
How in the world did you ever hear about Brewton, Alabama and pitcher plants?
I think somebody drove me by here saying we had to take a quick peek in here and not go very far because it's an airport. And once you see this collection of leucos, even the spring pictures, you realize this is something that's pretty special. There's Splinter Hill, there's Forever Wild, those are amazing places, but it's the small pockets where this hybridization can really happen, where you see the exceptional plants.
All right, well, I'm going to let you rejoin your group and get to doing what you do.
All right, thanks. The challenge is they are very slow to propagate. If you were to just grow them on peat moss, it will take years to get the flowering size. Like I myself have 100 square feet of temperature-controlled climates, and they run the lights 24/7.
Yes.
And they're fertilized. They can handle a very specific amount of fertilization, and beyond that you will kill them, but there's a level where you can push them really hard. And I know I've got plants from seed to flower in 16 months with very dedicated effort. So there's a way to make them grow really fast. Yeah. I think one of the challenges that we try to really make sure is that we don't plant any plants out in wild that aren't from the area they're at. Because I know, walking into my greenhouses, I can see the very distinct difference between like a Virginia flava and one from Alabama, and I would never want those genetics here because they are so different. So you would want to have very specific, as close as you can, probably county level stuff. That's what you would want to propagate. But absolutely, we can show you the way and show you what we do, what we've been doing over the past 10 years, trying to figure out how to grow them really fast. And then anywhere they're close together, there will always be integration. Yeah, and we take special note. We really try to photograph any of the F1 hybrids. So it'd probably be really tough to find, but a Wrigleyana, which would be a Psittacina crossed with a Leuco, and they're a very distinct looking plant. They're very low to the ground and hard to find. I wouldn't be surprised that that was the parent right there. The seed pod fell right down and then spread over the years.
Look how deep that one, is with the white spot.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's probably one.
So what are you seeing here, Steve?
We're seeing kind of like a hybrid swarm going on with this big leuco population and the flava in here. There's the Morii, which are the hybrids, and kind of unlike Over there, these are a little bit more 50-50 looking, half lava, half Luco. The colors are kind of washed, there's not as much white. Whereas over there, we saw a lot of white in the Morii, which tends to happen when the Luco gets back into the genes in the second or third generation. We've seen a ton of different plants, and we can kind of recognize a shape and kind of an overall color scheme. It's not a guarantee, but we've noticed in different spots, even in Blackwater, Santa Rosa side, Okaloosa side, the plants are slightly different when you really observe and kind of analyze how they look. And even with the Lucos in those counties are very different than the Lucos out here.
Yeah, these ones couldn't be more different from the plants an hour to the west in Baldwin County. No way they could be from the same site. Yep.
So if you look on a map, you look for big drainages, and things to the left and to the right of that are like going to be very disparate.
They can be isolated. Same thing with the different species, Sarracenia flava in the eastern panhandle. You go in Apalachicola National Forest, there's a certain kind of look to the flavas. You skip over, I forget which river that is, but you're over in Bay County, just
Apalachicola River.
Apalachicola River. Yep. Across the Apalachicola River, the flavas look completely different.
I think we're lucky that Sarracenia, all the species can very easily hybridize together because it's given us this palette of colors from all of these hybridization events over the millennia, back in and out.
And we came up with a pretty harebrained theory about some of the Lucos too, like these that are very, very clumpy, can be influenced by another species, rubra, which is a smaller species but very, very clumpy, and the rhizome likes to split quite a bit. You mix that in there and you can get some of these really dense clumping types. Like out at Splinter Hill, an hour away, the plants are single growth points, right? And the rhizomes might grow and branch, so you could have an individual clone that's this wide, but there'll only be 6 pitchers on an area the size of a mattress, right? But you can see it's the same plant. It's just spread out over time. The plant's hundreds of years old. Whereas these guys are just dense and forming these big bouquets. So it's a different style. And likely different hybridization events in the past probably had a lot to do with that. Probably from a direct crossing of Leucophila and Flava. Whereas the one we were talking about earlier is almost certainly something like this crossed back to Leuco, right? To Leucophila, the original parent.
This is almost the western edge of Flava. Baldwin County is where they stop. There's none left there.
No, the question is, what is it? But it really looks like it has some root over it.
Let's find some rubber. I have not found rubber now. If there's rubber here.
Well, it could have been
They're
thousands
small.
of generations
Tiny,
back.
tiny,
Yeah.
tiny.
I mean, they only get about that high.
I know, and they don't like full sun. They like a little bit of canopy.
All the ones we find, we get lucky because you go like that and go, oh, there it is.
Yep,
Well,
yep,
this
you're
is
right
new
up
for
on
me
it.
and Carol. We've never seen that.
We've seen an amazing thing. What's really fantastic about this site is the clumpiness, which generally you don't see in the wild. These plants form really dense clumps, which is unlike most of the sites that are still left around here.
The goal is for people to come to E.O. Wilson Nature Adventure Park and be able to see all these different varieties, the hybrids, the purebreds, all of these pitcher plants, find them all in one location instead of having to go out where it may be dangerous or where people can't get to. We've created a place here that's easy to step up to and see all of these plants. And some of these you'll never find in the wild because they're just so hard to find.